Are you a
10, 9, 8,
Okay, so we're gonna probably add
Welcome to Gather Geeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. This episode is a Gather Geeks special sponsor edition. Here's your host, BizBash CEO David Adler.
Welcome to this special Hilton sponsored edition of Gather Geeks by BizBash. This episode is dedicated to business-to-business social media, photography, and engagement at meetings and events, especially on small budgets. Our guest, Cheryl Shelton, the creator of Wow with Hilton, the first Instagram channel of any major hotel brand to be 100% dedicated to meetings and events, and veteran photographer Justin Fox Burke. Tips, strategy, and best practices for upping your social media and photo-taking skills to improve your game. So let's listen. So Cheryl and Justin, welcome to Gather Geeks. Where are you guys located? You're in Memphis, I hear, right?
Thank you, David. Yes, we are located in Memphis, Tennessee, where Hilton has a corporate office here.
And
that's right. The home of rock and roll, Bluff City, Memphis, Tennessee.
You know what? I was just there. I loved it. So today we're really talking about social media. We're talking about meetings and events. I mean, Hilton is one of the largest players in this field, and you guys deal with so many meetings and events that I am assuming that you are an expert at what people do and what works. Cheryl?
I don't know about expert, but then again, can anybody really say they're an expert at social media,
not, yes.
Considering how much these channels change every single day?
I consider myself to be an expert in image making. So I can make images that get that emotional response from people and help people to push that like button.
The emotional response, is that what people should be going for in all their photographs?
I think so. I think your photo should make someone happy or hungry or thirsty for that cocktail. They should it should sort of give them the desire to be where you are and doing the things that you're doing. Photography is a medium of discovery.
So Cheryl, you do the events, the B2B marketing side of Hilton and things like that. I mean, when you think about it, there's probably more photography going on in those rooms at those events than we ever even imagined, especially today with social media and things like that, that they're capturing almost everything. And do you see that really at every type of event? And it's not something that just happens with younger or older people, right? Or is it something where people are not doing it or doing it more? What's your gut? I know that.
In my opinion, I think they're doing it more and more. It does seem, especially when you go to these bigger events, and that's why being involved in social media and having a presence there is so important, because your attendees are going to be posting about your event whether you're involved in social media or not. So you might as well have a presence. You might as well have a seat at the table and take part in that conversation that's already happening.
Let's talk a little bit about platforms. Every time I do a speech, it's like, okay, what platform is the most popular right now? And lately, the hands go up when I say Instagram. Do you agree with that?
It depends on your audience.
Yes, of course.
We did some research before we entered into social media for B2B purposes to make sure that we were investing our time and our resources where our target audience was. So our research showed that meeting planners and meeting attendees were highly involved in Instagram and LinkedIn. And that really makes a lot of sense if you think about the purpose of those platforms versus what these people are doing in their daily lives. Instagram is photo and video based, so it provides the perfect platform for attendees to showcase the virtual story of your event. When you have stellar lighting or a really cool social media integration, carefully curated booth designs and decors, the photos can describe all of these things in a much more effective way than words ever can. So it's the perfect platform for not only you to share out your events and what you're doing, but to allow for your attendees to share that out as well because they're so excited to be there.
And
then LinkedIn is really important to our audience because they highly value learning. And that's what LinkedIn has become now. It's no longer just a place that you load your resume and you seek a new job. Now it's an effective way to stay up to date on your industry's news and learnings by connecting with your peers and your leaders.
And Facebook, where is that in the study?
So Facebook is definitely one of the top 3 as far as major platforms go, but it's a little trickier in the meetings and events space, just because you still see so many people that are utilizing Facebook for personal reasons, whereas LinkedIn and Instagram, you have a little bit more integration of business, not only businesses, but people engaging with businesses. Those engagement rates are a little higher on Instagram, which is why we focused our efforts there.
And I would say, just anecdotally, those as people interact, it's more positive on Instagram. It feels like a more positive space as compared to Facebook, and especially like a platform like Twitter. Instagram, you can walk away feeling good, seeing pictures of people's puppies and the trips they're taking, and it seems like a more supportive sort of community there. Would you agree?
I would. Again, because all the posts have to be tied to a photo or a video. Mm-hmm. So people wanting to go on and rant and rave about a political topic or a religious topic, by the time they go through their phone and find the perfect picture to accompany that, they probably cool down a little bit. So it helps keep things a bit more positive on that platform.
So put yourself in your meeting or your event at a wonderful Hilton event, and you're busy shooting things, and you want to, how fast should you get it up on social? Or do you want to take the time to do it later? I mean, what is the debate around that? Do it now or do it later? What do you think? This is like, there's no science.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with meeting planners is they are so busy. For most of them, every single minute of the event is planned out for them. So it's finding the time that works for them. There are some meeting planners that want to go ahead and say, okay, from 9:52 to 9:55, I'm going to pull my best 3 photos and I'm going to make a post here. There are other people like me who like to go around and shoot as their schedule permits, and then within the 1 hour following the event, going ahead and sorting through those and making that post. Either can work, as long as you are still following up in a timely manner. Obviously, you don't want to let a whole week pass after the event before you make your post. So if you can make that post either that same night or at minimum within 24 hours of the event, then you're still doing good. And just find what works for you and your schedule and your process.
I agree, Cheryl. If you can, I would say that doing the work beforehand to get the word out is almost more important than actually covering the event in real time. Oh. So what you want to do is create excitement. Maybe right as the event is starting, you get one image up on social media to get people kind of pumped about what's going on, and then cover the event. Take all of your pictures, and then take the time to edit them and get them exactly how you want them before you send them out into the world. Because once they're out into the world, they're no longer yours, right? They belong to the universe.
So you made a really interesting point about the pre-event sort of social media drives. How does that impacts the excitement? It impacts everything. Like, what is the strategy around that? Do you promote your speakers? Do you promote what's the most important thing that people should be promoting pre-event?
I think it depends on your event. I keep giving this "it depends" answer, but everybody's events and meetings are so different from each other. You have to figure out what works for you. I don't think there's any reason that you couldn't tease your event and promote all of those different aspects, because that gives you different fodder to use a week leading up to the event, 48 hours leading up to the event, 24 hours leading up to the event. And then just as important is getting your team on board. So we not only will do those teaser posts leading up to an event to build excitement, to build awareness, but we also alert all of our salespeople, all of our hotel staff, all of our marketing team members to say, hey, we're pushing these posts out. Be sure to share them with your team, copy and paste the text so that you're speaking in the same voice and you're utilizing the correct hashtags and things like that. because each person that shares it is only going to increase your reach of people that might not already be following you, but maybe they're following their sales representative instead. So it's just utilizing all of those different methods to get that message out beforehand and make sure everyone is aware that you're going to be there, where they can find you, what's going on, the dates and the times, all of that good information.
And start early. I can tell you from experience, when you see someone on a plane, out a plane window, you want to know where they're going. You want to know
funny.
where they're headed. And when you say headed to Boca or, for a conference, they will be invested, and you kind of got them hooked at that point.
Yeah, no, I kind of do that too. I always do that Facebook, where you're going, and promote events that I'm going to in advance. That does make a lot of sense.
Well, we have a program. They have a program at Hilton. It was actually my first photo shoot ever for Hilton a couple of years ago. It's called Puppies and Ice Cream.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's a great social. I know. Look, let me tell you, David. When they said we want you to come and photograph this event, it's called Puppies and Ice Cream. I thought I had died and gone to heaven, right? So, and it is those two things. They bring in shelter dogs and ice cream, and during a break from a day full of meetings, it's a really good de-stressor. And so it is both a social event, but also a perk.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example, because the difference that you see in the way people are utilizing social media between business or corporate events and social events is really, I think, the light in which they view each event with. When people are posting about going to a business event, they're in that mind frame of I'm working and I'm going to be here for professional purposes, and let me connect with you on a professional level. When they're posting from social events, there's a different kind of joy and happiness there. They're there for different reasons. And so what we love about an ice cream is you see people on their break with their phones out, but they're not working on emails. They're not calling their boss for another pre-scheduled call. They legitimately have their phone out for personal reasons, because they are happy and they are enjoying this moment and they want to convey that. So you've got social media involved in both instances, but the intent is different, which is one of the great ways of wanting to capture that emotion at events. Because it's going to be so much more exuberant in those social settings.
So it keeps that fatigue from setting in. Instead of just one thing, like here's a meeting, here's a meeting, here's a meeting, to interject emotion, fun in there, I think you will get more people on board and enjoying the content that you're putting out.
Well, I guess that people are people, whether they're going to a social event or a business event. They're kind of expecting the same things. Like when you go to a great conference, concert or festival, all of those things are leaking into the B2B side as well. It seems to me.
I was just going to say, generally speaking, people join social media for two reasons. They want to be educated or entertained. And so that's very much the same path that you're taking between those social events and your corporate events. But the bottom line is they want to have the best of both worlds there, to be entertained or educated.
Well, let me add another element to that. There's also two types of people that do social media, the creators and the consumers. It seems like when you go to an event and you see the puppy thing, you become a creator instantly, because you can't pass that up. There's a FOMO of creation, in a sense, that you got to capture that picture.
Exactly.
Which is a whole new thing. I mean, if you think about it, like 10 years ago, nothing we're talking about was even in anyone's mind. And now it kind of blows your mind how crazy it is and how interesting it is and how much fun it is.
Exactly. And FOMO is a good word today for anybody that is listening. You asked the question earlier about how do you know if you're capturing a good image for social media? If it is FOMO inspiring, it is a winner. If it makes people wish that they were not where they are and instead where you are, that's a winning photo right there.
I agree.
Yeah, the other thing that people talked about in the past was if you stream your event, people will not want to go to it. And it turns out the research has shown that when you stream your event, everyone has FOMO and they want to come the next year. So the thing is, though, when you're designing an event, if you're an event organizer, How do you actually create these social media moments? Do you put the money into one great thing, or is it the entire room? Like, if you have a limited budget, where do you put your social media, money shot? What do you think?
Yeah, it is one of those "it depends" questions.
Oh no, here we go, Cheryl. It depends.
I know, right? I feel like a broken record here. But not all meeting planners are the same. Not
Sure.
every event is the same. So you really have to kind of gear it towards what kind of event it is. But don't let that answer, deter you from having social media involved in your event at all, because it can work effectively in both ways. If you have the budget, if you have the time, if you have the resources, then go big. Why not? I mean, people love that social media interaction. But if you are organizing a smaller event with limited budget or limited resources, and maybe you are a one-man team, then focus on implementing one thing, and then just do that one thing really well and make sure that it is communicated to your attendees clearly. One example of how we did that at a recent event, Hilton recently celebrated our 100th birthday. So that obviously was a huge thing for us. And we wanted to make sure that we not only celebrated it internally, but also with our customers. So we had a big birthday party, for lack of better terms, and we invited a lot of our customers. I believe it was in New York. Is that right, Justin?
New York.
And what we did is we wanted a way to not only celebrate that birthday with them, but allow them to interact with some different aspects of our history and our legacy. So we set up a few light boxes and within each light box, it included some of the Hilton first. So, for example, the pina colada, which was created at the Caribe Hilton, the brownie, which was originally created at the Palmer House Hilton. And we worked with Justin to create these light boxes that let our attendees photograph them. So, Justin, you want to talk about how that happened?
That's interesting.
Sure thing. We had this great idea of, it started with Instagram Butler. That was sort of the umbrella idea. And the idea was for me to show up and to take the attendees through from where they start with their image-making skills, and then take them through my little 5-minute course and have them come out on the other side making more beautiful images, having more confidence, and having an Instagram feed that is FOMO worthy. So what we did, like Cheryl said, there's 3 boxes, and we styled them with, they had the 3 items in there. And so for the pina colada, we made this very lush tropical setting. And then for the brownie, it was nice and homey. And for the cookie, we had a glass of milk and everything you would want with it, nice warm wood tones. And we went through with each person, and I had them take a picture just how you normally would. And invariably, people would just stop their phone and point it at whatever it is and push the button without much thought. And, my first tip for people is always to care about it, right? Take some time, take some care. And with just that one tip, they started making better pictures.
How do you go from tell someone to care to actually caring? What does that mean? Dig deeper.
Telling someone to care, I think it really flips a switch in them. You cannot do something that you don't care about. And and I think the best way to make them care is to tell them that they can do it. And I think people spend a lot of time, especially in creative endeavors, where they look at a painting or they look at a photograph and they say, I can't do that. And I tell them, like I'm their mama or something, I say, honey, you can do this. You can do this. A human person did this, made that picture that you like. A human person made that painting that you like, and you're capable. And get in there with all of your capabilities, and let's start training your eye so you can feel like you can.
And what was tip 2?
I've got a whole list.
Oh, let's see. Let's hear it.
I could spend an hour talking to you about that, but one of the things I talked to you first about is to pick a subject that you care about, right? And then be able to convey that. But I would say my biggest tip, the one, if you learn nothing else from me, is to turn off your flash.
Ooh.
Lighting is the most important component, and you've got to decide on that. If you turn off your flash and use some of the ambient light, and you can walk around either the hotel floor or go by a window, if you can take that show on the road and you can find some light, look for the light and go to the light, as they say, and you can use that light, your pictures are going to improve 1,000%, because that on-camera flash flattens everyone out, makes you shiny.
Yeah. Or gives you the zombie eyes.
Gives you the zombie eyes, and there's just nothing particularly interesting about that flash. So go by a window in the daytime, or find a bright spot in the room near a lamp or a display, and use that existing light to create your image.
What do you do at night and it's dark? You just don't take a picture?
Yeah, find the light in the room. You know,
okay.
There's always a lamp.
Yeah, there's usually something if you get creative. One tip that I give to people who know that they're going into usually a dimly lit meeting or event and need to capture some photos, I love using a little handheld lighting piece. I personally use the Lumi handheld lighting box.
Lumi Cube.
Lumi Cube. It fits really easily in your opposite hand, so you can hold your phone and shoot with your dominant hand, and then hold the lighting cube in the other. And it's it's not that harsh flash that is included on your stock phone. You could find a lamp, like Justin mentioned. You could move near a lighting structure. If colored lighting has been brought into the event, you could station some of your photos near there. All of those are much more natural choices versus the phone flash.
Okay. And if you don't have a Lumi Cube, your friend's phone with the flashlight on, right? As long as it's not on the phone you're taking a picture with, have your friend's phone, turn the flashlight on, and then you can use that as an external light.
And pointing
and you want it to be a little off center, right?
Yeah.
Up to about 45 degrees off to the side of where you're taking pictures, because that flat front light doesn't do anybody any favors.
Okay, so you're getting really practical here. What's another thing that we should take notes on?
I think you can create depth, texture, and style. When you find that light, to create depth, think about how that light falls across your subject, how the shadows are created. Think about texture, wood grains, fabric, glass, whatever's going to help tell your story. Is it a modern story? Is it a rustic story? And then style, there are, you have style in your head, retro or funky, maximalist or bold. You can borrow styles from things you already know and like until you develop your own style over time.
Okay, Justin, here's a question. All of a sudden,
all right, shoot.
So I'm sure you have a good answer for this. You have the 4 people in the room that are having a conversation, and all of a sudden you hold your camera up, and all of a sudden everybody freezes and decides to pose. How do you unpose them?
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, but what do you say to unpose these people? Because isn't that what we're sick of?
If you walk up with your camera, with your camera drawn, you're less likely to have them sort of stop and get into a line like you're talking about. If you're what I do is I'll do a few red herring pictures, right? So you're near them and you look like you're taking some pictures of someone else and other things in the room, maybe up at the ceiling, and then you get to them. They can easily convince themselves that you're not there taking their picture, and you can get that candid look that you're after.
Justin is our ninja, so usually by the time you see him taking your photo, he's already taken 20.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of good tips here, Justin. A lot of Justin rules.
That's right. It's really fun. And if you do get people who have lined up, what I like to do is I call it like the Vanity Fair picture, right? So they're not there with their arms around each other. Maybe you can turn one to one side, one to the other, almost like a little Charlie's Angels back to back kind of thing, and it looks a little less staid, and they feel silly. Here's another great tip about photography: if people feel silly the way you're posing them, they will actually laugh. They will feel like, oh my gosh, what are we doing, right? And then they'll be like, and then that's your moment.
Well, bringing it back to what we said originally about connecting, I mean, the smile seems like it's one of the barometers, even more than the light.
I wouldn't say more than the light. You got it.
Yeah, ask a woman about that.
You want the good light and you want the smile. I wouldn't say that they're mutually exclusive at all.
I absolutely love more of the candid shots. So Justin was talking about his tip of getting people to feel silly so that they'll laugh for the camera, and that laugh is a much more genuine smile. One of the things that I love to do if I'm posing a family picture or a staged photo with friends is whoever is taking the picture, I tell them, I want you to start taking pictures as soon as we all walk up, and don't stop taking pictures until we are completely through. And then what I'll do is I usually go up to the group, and while we're staging each other and getting in line and getting everything right, I'll start cracking jokes. And those pictures of us just kind of goofing off and laughing are so much more genuine than anything that is staged, or if someone's feeling uncomfortable in front of the camera or whatnot. It's just those genuine photos speak volumes.
Okay, Justin,
I agree.
Professional joke to get people moving. What's your go-to? I know it depends.
All right. I have a trick that I do, and it works.
Ready?
It works every single time. Cheryl's seen me do it.
Okay, get ready, world.
We did
Get ready, world.
We did 152 headshots in 2 days. One not too long ago. But here's what I do, especially if someone's being a little too rigid. I'll say, okay, I want you to look down at the floor and count the floor tiles. And they'll say, what are you talking about? So just look down. And they say, okay. And I say, all right, I'm going to count to 3. When I get to 3, I want you to look up at camera and laugh like I've told you a joke. Although I'm not going to tell you a joke, I'm going to laugh with you. So you're not going to be alone. And they will look down at the floor, and I'll say 1, 2, 3, look up at camera, and I start laughing. And they're like, what is this madman doing? This is crazy. And they actually start laughing, and we start laughing together. And that is the way I get the most genuine look out of someone who has really camera fright. It's fun. I mean, I have a job where I get to laugh every day, sometimes 100 times a day.
So, you mentioned the headshots. We recently did an event, David, with Hilton customers where we offered to take free professional headshots for them, so that they could update, their profiles and things like that. We brought Justin in, and we brought in that professional lighting that we just discussed. And you would be surprised at how popular that event execution was and how engaged people were wanting to come and get new headshots, especially considering we didn't do any retouching on their headshots. We just had nice lighting. And all of a sudden, these lovely headshots that people really, really enjoyed having for their professional roster.
The secret to a good headshot is having a rapport with someone and having to establish a rapport with someone in a pretty short amount of time. I mean, we were about 8 to 10 to 15 people deep.
How often should... Now, this is kind of a funny question. How often should you update your photo on a LinkedIn or Facebook? Like, 'cause I see people that are 30 years, they haven't touched their photo.
I don't think there's any set rule, but you definitely want to make sure
like once a decade?
that when people see you in person, they're not questioning if it's the same person that they saw online.
Right.
Cheryl, that is a good rule.
I had to talk my friend Marshall into shooting a new headshot recently. He said, why? I said, because I shot this last one on film. Okay, so that was pre-2003. You're a handsome guy, but you may have aged just a little bit. People need to see the real you.
Is there another style of event that you think that you want to do in the future that would have all those elements? And what would it be if you could if you had an unlimited budget to do your own event that had a social media component like the one you had? What would you do next? Have you thought about that?
Oh, gosh.
He's asking for our secret.
Yes,
I want to know what's next.
The answer is yes.
But you're not telling me.
one of the trends that we're certainly seeing, we talked earlier about taking the traditional step and repeat, and how do you expand upon that? How do you bring something new to your attendees so that they're not seeing the same thing over and over and over? And one of the things that I love about where social media has been going recently is making those photo opportunities much more interactive. So the light box was a great example of that, because when you go back and you look at those pictures, all of the elements within each light box, the people could move and rearrange to create their own unique picture. Every picture that was posted was different. None of them looked exactly the same. Last year at a big event where instead of light boxes, we had entire rooms that were interactive. So one room was created to show the luxury of our Waldorf Astoria brand, and we had an old-fashioned clawfoot tub in there filled with iridescent balls like you would see in a ball pit to represent the bubbles in a bubble bath. We had Waldorf Astoria robes that people could wear. We had inflatable toys that they could pose with. And so all of these elements could be moved around the room with excellent lighting intact, and provide them with their own unique picture. And some people were compelled to do pictures. Some wanted to do an entire video clip. Some wanted the boomerang gift. So any time that you can allow that flexibility there, provides for a really unique and memorable experience.
So it sounds
Absolutely.
like giving the tools to the attendees to do their own thing is part of the game here.
A huge part of the
Right.
game. Yeah.
And that now
We did an event called the Orange Effect, where we had a wall of oranges, orange food. We had fresh squeezed juices and these sort of cabana-looking bars. And you wouldn't believe the amount of people that took pictures with the orange wall, holding their orange juice. And it was really a vibrant and beautiful event that made for some really good social media posts. And we didn't have to tell people how to do any of it. They just kind of fell in. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm getting from this is that the planning of an event now is no longer people in silos, because you need your F&B folks, and you need your managers, and you need your social media people, and you need your photographer, and you need everyone to work together to create these experiences. You can't do them in silos, and that's kind of the takeaway I'm getting from this, that all of this is one big integration and one big collaboration.
So from our Wow with Hilton Instagram account alone, I manage that, but it is certainly not a one-person show. I don't go to enough events in a single year to cover the amount of content that I would need to feed that channel. So we are constantly sourcing new images that we want to highlight via our hotels, via our salespeople, via our chefs. Our chefs actually have some great food photography, via our professional photographer and Instagram butler, Justin. So it's never about just having one person do everything. You have a lot of other resources out there at your fingertips if you just know where to look. And being able to tap into those people, they want to help you. They want to provide content for your channel, because that means better exposure for them too. So they're very willing to partner with you.
Well, also, I think that when you just do an event at the Hilton, there are so many people that want to be involved in so many aspects that help you make your event even better, because of all these techniques that people are thinking about, as opposed to here's the food and the beverage and the drinks and the decor. So it sounds like it's a perfect thing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, the presentations at the event of the food and beverage, really, it almost forces you to get your phone out.
Yep, that's a good
It's
sign.
dinner and a show.
That's how that's even better than the likes in many cases, because it's like you're voting. Like all of a sudden you see this dish and the whole room pulls out a camera. That makes you feel like, oh my God, someone really likes what you're doing here. Literally likes it, not pushes the button, likes it. Cheryl. So this has been great conversation, Cheryl. How do people sign up for your channels, your Instagram channels? How do they contact you? How do they find out more information?
Sure. So on Instagram, all you have to do is search for @WowWithHilton, all one word, and that will pull up our channel. We'd love for your listeners to follow us there. And then on LinkedIn, we have what's called a showcase page. So we have a page that is part of the larger Hilton presence on LinkedIn that is specifically for meetings and events and travel planning. And so you can just search for Hilton meetings, events, and travel planning and find our page on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really helpful. These rules, I think I'm going to go implement them tomorrow, maybe even tonight. That's the beauty of podcasts.
Yes, we want to see those new pictures, David.
You're listening in on somebody's conversation, and that's what I do. I listen in and I think, oh my God, I'm going to do that tomorrow. So that's the beauty of this, because the unscriptedness, like we went to places I never thought we would go. So anyways, thank you guys for helping and being so resourceful and understanding what we're trying to go after in terms of changing the way we look at social media and events and meetings. And now that it's all integrated, I think that we're going to have better events and better meetings.
Are you a
10, 9, 8,
Okay, so we're gonna probably add
Welcome to Gather Geeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. This episode is a Gather Geeks special sponsor edition. Here's your host, BizBash CEO David Adler.
With over 163,000 employees and more than 5,000 properties, it's not easy to change the